Did you know that behind decades of timeless melodies, some legendary Black R&B voices guarded a hidden reality few ever imagined? They gifted the world songs about devotion and longing that still echo today, yet beyond the spotlight existed a silence they were forced to protect. These 15 icons walked a path of quiet restraint, shaping music history while concealing their authentic selves, and they left this world with stories that remained unspoken, preserved only in the emotion of their art. These narratives do more than surprise. They quietly expose the unseen costs that legendary musicians often carried to protect their names and their art. Their paths extend beyond recorded hits and chart success, reflecting the weight of recognition within a world shaped by rigid expectations and unspoken boundaries. Today's video invites you to look closer at these rarely discussed lives. If you'd like to discover more about these influential artists, consider subscribing and supporting the channel. Feel free to share your perspective in the comments below, and thank you for being part of this journey with us. Born in 1932 inches, the small town of Macon, Georgia, Little Richard, known to the world as Richard Wayne Penniman, rose to become one of the most influential figures in 20th century music history, shaping sounds that would echo for generations. Raised in a deeply spiritual household, he spent much of his early life wrestling quietly with his inner world and personal truth. From the moment he stepped into the spotlight, his fearless style, towering pompadour, and electrifying, soul-charged voice shattered expectations, igniting stages everywhere and helping define the very foundation of rock and roll. Timeless tracks like Tutti Frutti, Long Tall Sally, and Good Golly Miss Molly were more than chart toppers. They became building blocks for the sound of a generation and beyond. Little Richard shattered conventions and opened doors that reshaped popular music, leaving a lasting imprint on icons such as Elvis Presley, the Beatles, and Prince. Yet beneath the fire of his performances and the fearless image he projected, there existed a quieter, more complex inner conflict, one shaped by identity, expectation, and emotions he rarely allowed the world to see. Though celebrated as a living emblem of daring expression, freedom, and brilliance, away from the stage he carried a quiet unease about revealing his authentic inner world. In the mid-1990s, he briefly spoke openly about his personal truth, only to step back soon after, returning to silence and restraint. This visible reversal mirrored a lifelong tension between inner honesty and the powerful pressures imposed by tradition, faith, and the rigid expectations of the cultural world he navigated. Little Richard was raised in a world deeply guided by the church, where rigid beliefs about identity and expression shaped daily life. While faith played a vital role in forming his musical roots, it also became a space that rejected the differences he carried inside. As a young teenager, emotional conflict at home led him to leave and find his own way, marking a turning point in his life. Under constant pressure from social norms and family expectations, Richard ultimately chose to channel his truth into sound and performance, breaking invisible limits and sparking a lasting transformation in modern music. Yet the liberation he found beneath the stage lights stood in sharp contrast to the quiet isolation that followed him in private. Richard learned to suppress deeply personal impulses, carrying the constant worry that openness might silence his success. At different moments, his words seemed to reject certain identities, while at others he hinted at his own unconventional spirit. These apparent contradictions puzzled many, but they also subtly exposed the heavy weight of judgment, expectation, and social pressure that surrounded him from every direction. As a highly visible black performer in an era marked by deep racial barriers in the United States, openly revealing personal identity beyond accepted norms was almost impossible. Little Richard was fully aware of the consequences that came with challenging social rules and industry expectations. Still, he moved through life with a fierce sense of dignity and creative freedom, even under relentless public pressure. Despite enduring ongoing inner tension and private struggles, The impact he left on music and culture continues to stand strong and unquestioned. The Beatles once sought his guidance to sharpen their stage presence. James Brown openly drew strength from his example, and Prince echoed his fearless flair. Even David Bowie later credited Little Richard as a forerunner who quietly reshaped ideas of expression and identity in music. When Little Richard passed away in 2020 at the age of 87, he left behind a legacy vast in sound and spirit, and history ultimately honored him as a foundational force who helped design the blueprint of rock and roll itself. Yet what remains largely unseen is how his presence quietly opened doors for future generations who felt different, even though he never openly claimed that influence himself. His journey reaches far beyond sound and rhythm. It speaks of resilience, inner conflict, and the heavy cost of living between truth and expectation. Little Richard shone with an intensity that could not be ignored, a lasting fire that illuminated the path for others, even as he himself was never fully free to let that flame burn without restraint. Johnny Mathis, born in 1935 inches, Gilmer, Texas, emerged as one of the most enduring and refined voices in American popular music. Raised in a modest household, he revealed remarkable ability early on, excelling not only in music but also in athletics. After relocating to San Francisco during his youth, he received structured training in both fields and even drew attention as a potential contender for the U.S. Olympic track team. Ultimately, he chose the path of music, a pivotal decision that reshaped his destiny and left a lasting imprint on pop and R&B for generations that followed. With a velvet-smooth tenor and effortless control, Johnny Mathis swiftly rose as a defining presence, especially through timeless ballads such as Misty, Chances, and I Can't Say No. These recordings became more than commercial successes. They turned into emotional landmarks, carrying his voice into homes around the world and helping him reach extraordinary global sales, numbering in the hundreds of millions. Clad in immaculate suits, wearing a calm smile, and projecting a voice steeped in romance, he embodied an ideal that mesmerized audiences and secured his place among the most celebrated artists of the 20th century. To many admirers, Mathis embodied an idealized image, particularly for listeners drawn in by the sincerity and warmth he expressed through his songs. Yet beneath that polished exterior existed a private reality he felt compelled to guard throughout his career. In 1982, a rare media moment stirred public curiosity when a brief remark attributed to him suggested familiarity with a life rarely discussed at the time. Presented without explanation, the line quickly sparked confusion and intense attention, turning a passing comment into a subject of widespread speculation and debate. After that moment, Mathis offered no further clarification and quietly moved past the subject, as though it had never surfaced at all. The abrupt silence only deepened public curiosity, yet he remained steadfast in guarding his private world, choosing a life away from constant media attention and steering clear of celebrity scenes. He neither retracted nor affirmed the remark, allowing ambiguity to linger. For many observers, this deliberate quiet became both a form of protection for his career and a personal strategy for navigating the unspoken expectations placed upon him by the era he lived in. In an era marked by heavy judgment and unspoken limits, Mathis chose a path of quiet restraint to safeguard both his work and his future. Over time, listeners began to hear familiar songs like Misty and Chances through a more reflective lens, sensing emotions that seemed to drift between the lines rather than sit plainly on the surface. This subtle openness invited deeper interpretation, giving his music an added sense of depth and intrigue, and leaving audiences to quietly wonder whether an unseen affection lived within the tenderness of his most beloved melodies. His ballads reached beyond simple romance, carrying echoes of yearning and feelings that had to remain carefully veiled. Rather than public controversy, it was his restraint that spoke most clearly about the time he lived in. For a black performer moving between jazz, pop, and R&B during the mid-20th century, endurance itself was an achievement. Openly challenging social boundaries then could have demanded an unbearable price, threatening to undo everything he had patiently created. As a result, Matisse embraced a life of quiet distance, letting melody and emotion reveal what words never did. Today, he stands honored as a timeless figure in pop and R&B, remembered for a voice that once softened hearts across the globe. While his professional journey reached remarkable heights, his inner world was left largely untouched by public eyes. What endures is a legacy of sound that continues to resonate, while the deeper layers of Matisse's life, his inner battles, unspoken solitude, and personal truths remain gently hidden within the mystery of his music. Keith Barrow, born in 1954 inches, Chicago, Illinois, emerged as a promising voice in the soul and disco movement, admired for his gentle tone and distinctive musical presence. He was raised in a household deeply rooted in sound and spirit, guided by his mother, Willie Barrow, a respected pastor and influential voice for social change. Through her, he absorbed the emotional power of gospel, which later evolved into a deeper connection with soul music. By the mid-1970s, Barrow began carving his place in the industry, drawing attention with songs such as You Know You Want to Be Loved, 1976, and Turn Me Up, 1979, signaling the arrival of an artist poised for lasting impact. His live shows fused the tenderness of soul with the infectious pulse of disco, drawing audiences in not only through sound but through a magnetic stage presence and an uncommon ability to translate emotion into melody. Known to many as the honey-voiced crooner, Barrow was widely praised as a talent on the rise, with critics suggesting he could stand alongside the leading voices of his era. Yet beneath the shine of growing recognition, he carried a deeply guarded part of himself. Though his true nature was quietly understood by some, he never spoke of it openly, choosing instead to let silence protect his path in an industry that offered little room for such honesty at the time. During the 1970s, social attitudes in the R&B industry left little space for individuality, particularly for a young black performer trying to survive a demanding spotlight. The market favored carefully shaped images that followed narrow expectations, leaving Keith to present emotions that aligned with public ideals rather than his private reality. As he crafted songs of devotion and romance that spoke to a familiar narrative, his inner world followed a different rhythm. This quiet divide between expression and identity shaped both his life and his music, placing him in a constant state of unspoken tension. Those closest to Keith later spoke of long nights in the studio, moments when he quietly shared a wish to create music that mirrored his inner feelings, yet held back out of fear that honesty might cost him everything. Silence became his shield, a way to survive in an environment where openness carried heavy consequences. Although his name was never tied to public controversy, much of his real self remained carefully hidden, protected behind melodies and performances that revealed emotion without ever revealing the man entirely. This quiet existence gradually shaped a life marked by isolation, with burdens shared only among a trusted few. While his restraint helped him stay clear of public storms, it also denied him the freedom to fully embrace who he was. In 1983, Keith Barrow's life was cut short at just 29, amid a period shadowed by fear and misunderstanding surrounding a serious illness of that era. The news stunned fans and friends alike, many of whom felt he stood on the edge of extraordinary achievement, leaving behind a sense of promise unfulfilled and a talent taken far too soon. At that moment in history, openly discussing personal truth was largely forbidden, as certain subjects were surrounded by fear, misunderstanding, and silence. Keith Barrow came to be remembered as a gifted voice that never received the recognition it deserved, a bright presence that appeared briefly before fading too soon. His legacy lives not only in the tenderness of his songs, but also in the quieter narrative of restraint, inner conflict, and the solitude of an artist who was never fully allowed to exist as his true self. Luther Vandross stands as a towering figure in music history, celebrated not only for his extraordinary vocal talent but also for the deep imprint he left on the evolution of R&B. Born in 1951 to a humble family in New York, he transformed limited beginnings into an extraordinary legacy, rising through dedication and artistry to become one of the most respected voices of his time. Through songs rich with tenderness, yearning, and emotional honesty, Luther offered the world a sound that felt intimate, timeless, and profoundly human. Enduring classics such as Here and Now, A House Is Not a Home, and Never Too Much became far more than R&B staples. They evolved into emotional soundtracks for weddings, anniversaries, and life's most meaningful moments. With global sales surpassing 35 million albums, Luther Vandross earned his place among the defining voices of his era. His signature velvety tone, paired with unwavering dedication to his craft, allowed him to pour depth and sincerity into every performance, setting a standard of excellence that continues to inspire generations of artists and listeners alike. Music history reflects his tireless creative output, marked by chart-topping albums and performances that left lasting impressions. Working alongside legendary figures such as Dionne Warwick, Whitney Houston, and Mariah Carey, Luther crafted a career defined by consistency, discipline, and artistic integrity. He was respected not only for his voice, but for his professionalism, devotion to music, and the emotional strength he infused into every note. Yet behind the brilliance of his public success existed a quieter, less explored personal narrative, one that subtly influenced the man he became and the legacy he left behind. Despite the emotional depth woven into his love songs, Luther chose to keep his private life away from public discussion. Those closest to him later shared that he carried a deep concern that greater openness might jeopardize his career and, more importantly, cause pain to his devoted mother, Mary Ida Vandross. In an era shaped by quiet judgment and limited understanding, he opted for discretion, preserving a boundary between the artist the world adored and the personal life he carefully protected for the sake of family and peace of mind. He channeled his deepest feelings into sound, letting his voice communicate truths that words could not safely reveal. Even while carrying personal challenges behind the scenes, Luther remained unwavering in his artistic focus, never allowing inner struggles to interrupt his creative path. On stage, he delivered performances that felt both intimate and powerful, combining rich emotion with a commanding presence. More than just a vocalist, Luther embodied the role of a complete artist, carefully shaping every nuance of his music with intention, discipline, and heart. He approached every appearance with relentless dedication, pushing himself to deliver performances that felt complete and unforgettable. In 2001, Luther Vandross shared a standout collaboration with Beyoncé on The Closer I Get to You, a moment that symbolized both artistic excellence and mutual respect across generations. Yet his journey was suddenly interrupted in 2003 after a serious health crisis that ended his ability to perform. When Luther passed away in 2005, he left behind a powerful and lasting legacy, one that continues to live on through his music and resonates deeply with all who were moved by his voice and artistry. When he left the world, many came to understand that while Luther had spent a lifetime teaching others about love through unforgettable melodies, he himself was never fully free to live that truth openly. His journey reflects a quiet sacrifice shaped by restraint and unspoken boundaries. More than a musical legend, Luther Vandross stands as a powerful reminder of the personal cost imposed by social judgment and of the silent struggles endured by those who create beauty while navigating a world not yet ready to embrace them completely. At the same time, he endures as a symbol of music's unique ability to carry emotions and unspoken dreams beyond the limits of language. His songs are more than arrangements of sound. They are reflections of love, yearning, and shared human moments that resonate across generations. Although he was never fully free to exist openly as his true self, Luther Vandross left behind a legacy of rare emotional power, one that gently reminds us to honor our inner voice, value sincerity, and listen closely to the truths carried within the heart. Nona Hendryx was far more than an R&B vocalist. She embodied imagination, bold experimentation, and unwavering strength in music. Born in 1,944 inches, Trenton, New Jersey, she went on to leave a powerful mark on the industry, particularly throughout the 1970s. As a central force in the groundbreaking group LaBelle, she helped introduce music that carried confident messages about self-expression and female empowerment. With the success of Lady Marmalade in 1974, Nona and her group emerged as symbols of fearless creativity, challenging long-standing expectations and pushing beyond the limits of what society once considered acceptable. Despite the fearless tone of her music and the confidence she projected on stage, Nona carried a deeply personal truth she felt unable to share openly. During the 1970s, when rigid labels and quiet judgment shaped public opinion, revealing one's inner life could place an entire career at risk, especially within spaces that demanded carefully defined images. Although her art radiated freedom and courage, her private world remained guarded, kept away from public scrutiny. This contrast between expression and silence highlights the delicate balance she maintained, navigating success while protecting a part of herself that society was not yet ready to fully accept. Whispers about her relationships circulated quietly, yet she chose not to address them openly during the height of her success. In the spotlight, Nona radiated confidence and command, but away from the stage she moved with care, aware that honesty could carry unpredictable risks. As time went on and the intensity of fame softened, with her career entering a new chapter, she gradually found the space to speak more freely about who she was beyond the music. In conversations during the 2000s, Nona finally spoke openly about her love, sharing that embracing her true self gave her a sense of freedom she had never known before, free from fear of career consequences or social judgment. This moment of honesty reshaped how audiences understood her journey and quietly opened doors for a new generation of artists. Figures such as Janelle Monáe and others who later expressed greater openness around identity in Black music found inspiration in Nona's courage, carrying forward a legacy of authenticity, self-expression, and creative freedom. Nona Hendryx is remembered not only for her remarkable contributions to music, but also for the quiet strength she showed in standing firm amid social pressure. Her path was not loud or confrontational, yet the choices she made helped open space for those who came after her to live with greater honesty and freedom. Her story leaves behind a lasting message about resilience, self-respect, and the courage it takes to remain true to one's inner voice, even when the world is slow to understand. Her journey shows that the deepest truths do not always arrive with noise or spectacle. At times, they move quietly, carried within melodies that reach those who are willing to listen closely. Through music filled with sincerity and subtle strength, her life reflects the quiet power of inner freedom. It stands as a lasting reminder that choosing honesty and staying true to oneself can be an act of profound courage, even in moments when the world is not yet prepared to understand or embrace it. Billy Preston, born in 1,946 inches, Houston, Texas, stands as one of the most distinctive figures in modern music history. Often remembered as the fifth Beatle and the superstar of the organ, he revealed extraordinary ability at an early age, mastering the organ by the time he was 3. Before reaching his 10th birthday, he was already sharing stages with gospel icon Mahalia Jackson, experiences that helped shape a rare musical voice grounded deeply in gospel tradition and soul-infused expression. During his teenage years, Billy Preston began working alongside legendary artists such as Little Richard and Ray Charles, absorbing the pulse of soul, rhythm, and gospel that would shape his artistic identity. His remarkable skill at the keyboard soon made him a sought-after collaborator, leading to creative partnerships with icons like Aretha Franklin, the Rolling Stones, Sly Stone, and George Harrison. His talent and musical sensitivity were so highly respected that he became one of the few musicians welcomed into the Beatles' recording sessions, earning the rare title of the fifth Beatle and contributing decisively to the creation of their timeless track, Get Back. Songs such as Nothing from Nothing, Out of Space, and Will It Go Round in Circles rose to become enduring favorites, dominating the charts and earning him prestigious recognition, including a Grammy Award. Through these successes, Billy Preston firmly established himself as one of the most gifted and influential musicians of the 1970s, admired for both his sound and his vibrant presence. Yet beyond the accolades, the applause, and the joyful energy he projected on stage, there remained a deeply personal reality that Preston chose never to speak about openly. While his music radiated joy, motion, and bright energy, Billy Preston's inner world remained carefully hidden from view. Those closest to him quietly understood a personal truth he could not openly claim, knowing that the environment surrounding him left little room for such honesty. Within an industry shaped by rigid expectations, openness felt impossible. This contrast between the freedom he expressed through sound and the restraint he lived with, offstage placed him in a silent confinement, where caution, fear, and self-protection became constant companions. In quieter moments, Preston confided that concealing his inner truth slowly wore him down. To the public, he was endlessly vibrant and joyful under the spotlight, yet those closest to him witnessed the solitude that followed once the music stopped. He yearned for a life lived with openness, where affection could exist without caution, but the looming risks of judgment, professional loss, and social rejection kept him bound to silence for much of his journey. The gap between the joy expressed in his music and the quiet restraint that shaped his private life forms a narrative both uplifting and heartbreaking. Though Billy Preston never openly revealed his inner truth, his journey reflects the heavy cost of existing in a time unwilling to embrace difference. Beyond his remarkable talent, he came to represent the unseen battles carried by many artists, struggles endured in silence, hidden behind brilliance, creativity, and applause. Billy Preston's journey, marked by the quiet limits he placed upon himself, mirrors the weight of the era he lived in. His music continues to echo with movement, joy, and a sense of boundless energy. Yet within those vibrant moments linger notes left untouched, feelings and truths that were never given a voice. When he passed away in 2006 at the age of 59, the sound he created endured, while the deeper story of who he truly was remained largely unspoken, suspended between rhythm and silence. Donny Hathaway, born in 1945 inches Chicago, Illinois, is widely regarded as one of the most soulful voices in American music, celebrated for songs that reach deep into human emotion. Raised in a household shaped by gospel tradition, with a grandmother devoted to sacred music, he was surrounded by sound and spirit from an early age. While studying at Howard University in Washington, D.C., his exceptional skill as a pianist and arranger quickly drew attention, laying the groundwork for a remarkable career that would flourish throughout the 1970s. Hathaway's artistry reached far beyond performance alone. He was a gifted composer who seamlessly wove together gospel roots, jazz sophistication, R&B warmth, and classical structure into a sound that felt gentle yet deeply powerful. This unique blend allowed his music to move effortlessly across emotions, speaking directly to the listener's inner world. Through enduring works such as Misty, Someday We'll All Be Free, and Where Is the Love alongside Roberta Flack, his voice and vision traveled beyond borders. These songs became more than celebrated recordings. They evolved into lasting symbols of connection, compassion, and hope, earning him profound respect within the industry and the honor of a Grammy Award. Renowned for his warm tenor and rare gift for emotional expression, Hathaway rose to be regarded as one of the most influential figures in R&B history. While his performances moved audiences with strength and sincerity, he quietly carried an inner weight few could see. Beneath the surface of artistic brilliance existed deep personal tensions that shaped his private world. Among close friends and collaborators, there were subtle conversations suggesting aspects of his identity that remained unspoken, adding another layer to the complexity of a life lived largely away from public understanding. Within the climate of the 1970s, a period shaped by rigid thinking and quiet intolerance, openly addressing personal identity felt impossible. At the same time, Hathaway lived with serious inner challenges that added further strain to his journey, creating a constant tension beneath his outward success. Rather than being spoken aloud, these feelings seemed to flow into his music, where emotion carried meanings words could not safely hold. To the public eye, he remained composed and inspired under the lights. Yet in more withdrawn moments, he shared that years of restraint and concealment had gradually taken their toll, leaving a fatigue that fame could not erase. His songs felt like quiet echoes of feelings that could never be fully voiced, and it was this restraint that gave Hathaway's music its lasting depth not only in sound, but in the hidden stories carried within each note. In January 1979, Donny Hathaway's life came to a sudden and heartbreaking end at the age of 33, a moment that deeply shook the music world and left behind a sense of loss and uncertainty. His passing prompted many to reflect on the heavy weight of inner struggles and unshared truths, raising gentle questions about how unseen battles and silent burdens may shape even the most gifted lives. Though the full truth may never be known, Hathaway's passing did not silence his impact. Instead, it cemented a musical legacy that continues to shape and inspire generations. Artists such as Alicia Keys, John Legend, and Stevie Wonder have spoken of him as a guiding influence, a source of emotional and artistic depth. With a voice rich in feeling and sincerity, Donny Hathaway's music still reaches listeners today, while his life story stands as a quiet reminder of the unseen battles and inner weight that many gifted artists have carried behind their brilliance. The story of Donny Hathaway goes beyond an emotional musical journey. It reflects the quiet battles and unseen weight many artists carry behind their art. Timeless songs like Someday We'll All Be Free and Where Is the Love continue to echo across generations, speaking to shared hopes and deep human connection. If this story resonates with you, leave a 1 below. If you see it differently, leave a 0 and share your perspective. Remember to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next powerful stories ahead.